My son's soccer ball hit their car window by accident. We knocked to apologize. She opened the door and said, "Some kids aren't meant to live in neighborhoods like this." The next morning, my son's backpack was dumped on our porch. I made a call I swore I never would. I, 39F, live in a suburb just outside of Denver. Nothing fancy, but people here like to think it is. The kind of place where neighbors get passive-aggressive over HOA paint colors and whose grass gets cut first. I moved here 2 years ago with my son, Daniel. He's 9. Kind, a little quiet, smart as hell. Last Saturday afternoon, he was playing soccer in our front yard. We'd had a good morning, pancakes, cartoons, real slow family stuff. Around 3 p.m., I was cleaning the kitchen when I heard it, a loud, sharp pop, like glass cracking. I ran out and saw the ball sitting near the curb, and further up, a black Lexus with a clear spiderweb crack across the rear passenger window. Daniel looked like he'd seen a ghost. He just said, "It bounced." I didn't mean to. I looked around. No one else was out. I told him we needed to tell them, and offered to pay for the damage. He nodded, quiet. We walked up to the house. White siding, blue shutters. Very kept up. Their lawn always looks like something out of a landscaping magazine. We knocked. After a few seconds, a woman opened the door. Late 40s, maybe. Blonde. Jewelry that wasn't cheap. I started to explain, said I was sorry, offered to cover the window. She looked right at Daniel, then at me, and said, "Some kids aren't meant to live in neighborhoods like this." Just like that, I felt this slow burn start in my chest. But Daniel was standing right there, still holding my hand, still scared. I just said, "We'll pay for the window." She didn't respond, just shut the door. I didn't tell Daniel what she said. I let him think she was just mad. We went back home. That night, I filled out a claims report online for our liability insurance. I was trying to do the right thing, still believing maybe it was just a bad moment for her. The next morning, I got up early for a grocery run. Opened the door, and there it was, Daniel's backpack. Torn open, dumped out across the porch. His notebooks were soaked from the sprinklers. One of his school folders had tire marks on it like someone stepped on it or drove over it. The zipper was half ripped. Inside, his lunchbox was crushed. I stood there in my robe, just still. It wasn't random. It was a message. Someone had gone through it, maybe taken something. Someone knew whose it was and wanted us to see it like that. Daniel was still asleep. I cleaned it up before he could. Said maybe a raccoon got into it when he asked why his stuff was in a new bag. And then I made the call. To my brother, Eddie. Eddie and I haven't been close in years. He's different. Grew up same as me, same town, same parents, but took a darker route. He works security now, freelance mostly, some bodyguarding. But he used to run with some people who knew how to handle problems. Not always legal. Not always clean. When I called, I didn't even explain everything. Just said, "I need you to come down. Something's happened to Daniel."
He was at my door that night.
Eddie showed up just before 9 p.m. Same old beat-up Dodge truck. Same old leather jacket, even though it was too warm for it. He didn't hug me, didn't ask questions. Just looked at me and said, "Tell me what they did." I told him everything. The window, the woman, the backpack. I told him her words, finally said them out loud. Eddie didn't flinch, just leaned back in the kitchen chair and said, "You want me to make it stop?" I told him no. At first. I said I just wanted to keep Daniel safe. That I didn't trust the police to take it seriously. Because what would I even report? A backpack on a porch? A sentence said at a door? But I could feel the anger twisting in me. Not loud or violent. Just slow and cold. That woman had looked at my son like he was less. And someone had wanted to scare him. Hurt him, maybe. That night, Eddie sat on the porch until 2 a.m., just watching the street. By Monday morning, I'd replaced the window. Filed the insurance claim. Tried to get back to normal. Then Daniel came home from school looking pale. Said the principal had called him in because someone accused him of stealing earbuds from another student's backpack. He didn't do it. I know my son. And the principal even admitted the evidence was weak, just the other kid saying he saw Daniel near his desk.
No cameras. No actual proof.
But still, a warning went on his file. I asked who the kid was. Daniel didn't want to say, but I pushed, and he finally whispered the last name, Archer. Same as the woman with the Lexus. That night, I told Eddie everything again, slower this time. He didn't say much, just asked me to point out the house. The next day, a different kind of message came. Someone keyed my car. Deep, careful lines both sides. They didn't rush it, and they wrote something into the hood with the key. Trash. I filed a report. Cops came, wrote it down, said they'd keep an eye out. I could see in their faces they wouldn't. That's when Eddie stopped asking. He started planning. He watched the house. Took notes. Asked around. Turns out, the husband travels most weeks. The woman, her name's Paige Archer, works part-time at a law firm downtown. Her son, Max, goes to school with Daniel. Same grade. Private piano lessons on Wednesdays. She posts it all on Instagram. Perfect life. Perfect family. #grateful. Except now I knew how they really were. Eddie said he wasn't going to hurt anyone. Not in a way that leaves marks, he said. I didn't ask more, but I started locking the doors tighter.
Leaving lights on.
Feeling scared in my own house, not of strangers, but of the people on the other side of the street. And then one night, Daniel asked me something I'll never forget. He said, "Mom, why does that lady hate me?" I didn't have an answer. I just hugged him. But inside, something snapped. I told Eddie, do what you have to do. The next thing that happened didn't come from Eddie. It came from Daniel. A week after the car was keyed, he came home with something in his pocket. A bracelet, thin, silver, with a name engraved. Paige. He looked scared when he handed it to me. Said he found it in his backpack during lunch. He didn't put it there. No one saw who did. It was hers. I knew it right away. I'd seen it on her wrist that day at the door. I called the school. Told them what happened. They said they'd investigate. But I already knew how this worked. Her kid says one thing. Mine gets blamed. Always. I didn't tell Eddie at first. I didn't want him going too far. But that night, when Daniel went to bed, I opened a beer and told him everything. Showed him the bracelet. He stared at it for a long time. Then he said, "We can use this." Next morning, Eddie handed me a phone. Not my phone. Just a cheap burner, the kind you pay cash for. He said, "I'm going to text her. She's going to think someone saw what happened." "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said slowly, "she's about to get nervous." I didn't ask for the details. He said he'd make it look like a neighbor saw her by my porch that night, maybe even caught it on a camera. That someone had the bracelet. That someone might send it to the school board.
To her job.
She'd think she was being watched. I wanted to be mad, but I wasn't. I was tired. Tired of pretending we were safe just because we lived on a quiet street. The first message went out the next day. Just one sentence. "Nice bracelet. Should have been more careful where you left it." No reply. But 2 hours later, Eddie watched her drive away fast. Same Lexus. Not to work, to the school. I got a call an hour after that. The school said there'd been a misunderstanding, and the warning on Daniel's file was being removed. No explanation. No apology. Then, that evening, the bracelet was returned, wrapped in a paper towel, tucked into our mailbox. No note. I thought it was over. I thought maybe she'd back off now. But 2 nights later, our trash was dumped across the driveway. Ripped open, scattered everywhere. Dirty diapers, food scraps, old receipts, like someone wanted us to feel humiliated. And on top of the mess, stuck to a soggy pizza box, was a piece of paper. One word, in thick black marker, liars. I called Eddie before I even cleaned it up. He didn't say much. Just, okay. I used to think doing the right thing meant apologizing, keeping calm, staying polite, even when people showed you who they really were. But that night, as I watched Eddie quietly burn the note in a tin tray on our back porch, I realized something else. Sometimes the right thing is just protecting her kid from the kind of hate that hides behind clean lawns and quiet smiles. I don't know what Paige Archer is telling herself now. I don't know if she's scared or smug or planning something else. But I do know this. If she ever comes for Daniel again, I won't knock on her door this time. I'll let her learn what it feels like to be the one who's unwelcome. And that's the part that scares me, how easy it's gotten to stop being afraid.